my name is Jerry Chan, and I'm the founder of Frobots. Frobots is like an e-learning simulation strategy game where we try to make coding and computer science competitive. I think where Frobots is unique is that there hasn't been a lot of e-learning games in the past which focuses on teaching computer science. I mean, I grew up with games like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego and Logo on the Commodore 64. That was the extent of the learning games that I had access to in school. And while those were really fun, those were always sort of either trivia based or creative based, like drawing and creating things like art. And I think the industry hasn't moved too much from that place to present day. Because when you look at applications which focus on STEM learning and sort of teaching computer science, they generally are all of the creative sort. They allow kids to basically create pictures, create animations, create movies. And while there's nothing wrong with the creative type of games, I think Frobot's different in that it's more of competitive, more like an esport. What I mean by competitive is that if you think of esports or the part of gaming industry where you have professional gamers, where people train to, say, play a game like League of Legends or World of Warcraft or Counter-Strike. These games are the type of competitive games I'm talking about. So people will effectively train as if they were an athlete. They would hone their skills to be very, very good at this game in order to win contests, tournaments, and real-world money. They have real-world competitions and contests for these games, and it's a big industry, especially in places in Asia like Korea. Whereas Frobots, it does have the competitive aspect like these games. What you're doing is you're effectively writing code, you're writing programs. And the better you get at writing programs that can defeat other people's programs, this, I believe, is immediately 100% transferable to real-world skills, especially the type of skills that people are going to need in the future when people who are able to do software development and programming are going to be more and more valuable as we go into this age of AI, making the importance of these types of skills very, very relevant. I think eventually, I'd like to say the target audience is gamers of all ages and first-time learners of computer science and programming. But I think initially, it's probably going to be the hobbyists and the sort of the geeky type computer programmers who like to show how much smarter they are than their peers and friends. But I think the real world benefit of Frobots comes when it becomes a tool by which people, like say in early high school or late elementary school, learn programming. Because frankly, if I had something like Frobots when I was in grade 9, I probably would have been much more enthusiastic about computer science, because instead of just going to class and watching a lecture and learning like the dry textbook version of how to write code and how to write programs, if you're given a practical challenge, like write a program that could beat everybody else in your class, I believe that motivational aspect of it really drives people to learn and really get into a lot more. Blockchain is useful because the idea of Frobots is not just the first level game. The idea is that eventually you're building an economy, right? Because not only do you play your Frobots, eventually you can build upgrade parts for your Frobots. And once you have the ability to build parts as user-generated content, you're going to need a way to preserve the ownership of this content, these assets, these digital assets. And the only way to do that really is through use of NFTs. So that's where the blockchain comes in. Just the ability for people to engage in an economy and to own the content they create, own the assets they create. What we do with NFTs and Frobots is pretty much centered around the fact that your Frobot is itself an NFT, and any sort of upgrade parts that you need to equip on your Frobot, those will also be NFTs. And the reason for this is because we don't want the platform to be where your Frobot lives. Effectively, you're writing code. And so just like open source, when you write code, you own that code, right? And you may use GitLab, you may use GitHub, you could have the code on your own computer. But at the end of the day, if the code you write, the Frobots program, is your code that you own, the only way to really represent that is to wrap the whole thing in an NFT such that the platform doesn't have dominion over your code. We won't own the code that you write for your Frobot. That's very important because effectively that's what people mean when they say Web3. What they really mean is that user-generated content and user-generated digital assets, your creations, are owned by you. or the players or the creators. And the only way you can make that happen is by wrapping the asset in an NFT on a blockchain. Because we're an application layer, we're actually using asset layer, which is a layer for digital assets or NFTs, specifically for games. They are using BSV. We like the fact that the fees are very low, and we need them to be reliably low. Because at the end of the day, when everything is interactions on a blockchain, the platform is going to have to pay for all those transactions. We don't want the success of our game to have a monetary impact on how many fees we have to pay to use the blockchain. So it's very important when you're using the blockchain as a technology platform that the fees are very reliably low in all sort of volume use cases, and no matter how many people are using the blockchain at a given time, it shouldn't affect our usage of it. I think that's the primary selling point or the primary advantage of BSV in terms of other blockchains.